Is it on? I can't tell. Can you all hear me? Can you hear me now? Okay. Good morning and welcome to worship here at CVUU, which stands for Coastal Virginia Unitarian Universalists. My name is Pat Ives and I am a member of the board. For those of you who are newcomers today, whether it is in person or on Zoom, CVUU is a member congregation of the Unitarian Universalist Association, a denomination that is a part of a liberal religious tradition that goes back hundreds of years. CVUU offers an open door to all who recognize and honor our principles and the values from which they are derived: interdependence, equity, transformation, pluralism, generosity, justice, and love, which is at the center of our values. These are values which call us to action and which make us accountable to one another. Here at CVUU, our commitment to the work we are called to do through these values is demonstrated in our mission, which is to provide a nurturing community, foster courageous spiritual growth, and inspire compassionate action. It is with that love and commitment that we welcome all of you, member, friend, visitor, and everyone in between, to worship at CVUU and be a part of this journey with us. For the time being, for those of you who prefer to mask and who prefer to sit near other people who mask, we have set aside the balcony as mask-only seating during worship service. This does not mean that people who want to mask can't sit wherever they want, but we want to make sure that the people who want or need to mask can feel comfortable in our space. This is just one more way that we can be welcoming and inclusive to the many individuals who want to be an active part of this community. For those who want to sit in the balcony and do not have a mask with them, some masks have been placed up there for your convenience. Our minister, the Reverend Viola Abbott, is away for most of the summer, so today you will be hearing from one of our members, Martha Shore, and the sermon topic is Reclaiming the Flag, Embracing Patriotism, Humility, and Reparations. Also assisting with the service, Sally Daniel, Ellie Federerly, Liz Gronfeld, Cullen Strawn, Bruce Wayner, Lisa Kilcheski, Doug Throp, Audrey Noth, and me. After the service, you're invited to attend an in-person coffee hour in the social hall. Once again, thank you for being with us this morning, and we hope you will stay for the coffee hour. If you would like to help with the Zoom part of our service, please send an email to tech@c-vuu.org. And now let us worship together.
Wow. Democracy's benediction. We are democracy. Unruly, unfinished, unrelenting people of rebellious joy, taking to the streets underground resilience, resisting compliance, the pleasure of activism, organizing into simple hope. We are democracy. People of principles, taking on principalities, witnessing the worth of those called unworthy. Justice, just now, gaining ground. Integrity of interdependent existence, extending living democracy in heads, hands, hearts. We know that democracy can die, ossify, brittle byproducts of bygone idealists, plotting politicians, pirating votes, corporations cannibalizing our care for the world. Look, it can wither, distend, come to an end. Democracy, today we will love you alive, make you ours, make you thrive, and vote as though our hope is on the line. The Unitarian Universalists worldwide begin their services by lighting a chalice. Today, our chalice will be lit by Addie. Do we have Addie? Addie, who will be summoned. Or not. By Jackson, who is here for like the first time in a long time, and we have been missing you, Jackson. Yes, I'm calling you out. Jackson is a preeminent swimmer. What else do you like, Jackson? He loves his grandmother and all of his aunts here at church. As Jackson lights the chalice, if you would join with me in the words of chalice lighting. In the light of truth and in the warmth of love, we gather to seek, to sustain, and to share. Oh, we're sorry, Addie. Oh, Oliver, will you make our chalice go away later in the service? Okay, thank you. And now, if you would rise in spirit or body and join with us in hymn number 131, Love Will Guide Us. We will now close our silence and honor the different faith journeys that we represent here in song. Now comes the time in our service. Wait, is that not right? For Ellie Federley.
Hi, it's time for the middle message. So I want all the kids to come up front, all the youth to come up front. And we already saw you, Jackson, so you kind of got to come up here. I know. Boy, you won't come again, will you? So, wow, what a wonderful crew. Great job, guys. Thanks. So my name is Ellie Federley, and I've been coming to this church since I was probably, how old are you? How old are you? Can you tell me how old you are?
4.
4. That's how old I was when I came to this church. And I love this church. So, that aside, we're going to talk about symbols today. So, I think you know that I think you all know about symbols, what symbols are, right? Symbols, you know that they have been, like, back in, like, before we had written language or anything, people wrote symbols on cave walls, right? There's always been symbols to help us understand and to guide us in some ways. And symbols, I like symbolic things. You can go ahead, Lisa, the first symbol. So what is this a symbol of? What is this a symbol for? Yes.
Love.
Love, that's right, it is. Because we feel love kind of in our hearts, right? And so that's why that's a symbol of love. And you see that, and everybody knows what that means, right? How about the next one for me? What about this one? Do you know what this one means? What does that mean?
Peace.
That's right. And you know, it came about because they wanted to disarm nuclear weapons, right, way back in the 50s. And so this symbol is for N, and the straight up and down line is for D, and that means nuclear disarmament. That's what it starts for. That's what it's a symbol of. And for us, it's peace, right? That's what it means. We want peace. What about the next one? This is a flag that represents...
It's the pride flag.
That's right. And now it looks a lot different. In the old days, it was just the rainbow, but now it has all the trans and the people of color, right? Representation. This, I looked this up, and it's called the Pride Progress flag, which I kind of love, the idea that we have made some progress, but that arrow, that means we have more to go. We've got more progress to make. Okay? One more. What's this one? Someone that hasn't? Anybody know what that is?
The scales, which usually mean justice.
Exactly. The scales of justice. Equality, right? Equity. Okay, one more. Do you know what that means?
Restricted, all rights reserved.
We could actually use one word for this. What is this good for?
It depends on what's inside it.
Right, but what is it?
Don't do that.
Don't.
It means no.
No. So, one more. Okay, so what is this a symbol of? What is this a symbol of?
The United States of America.
Right, it's an American flag. And what does it mean to you? What does it mean to you when you see this flag?
To unite all states for peace.
I like that. That's a good one. Anybody have any? What does this bring up for you?
I'm in America.
You're in America. That's right.
Liberty.
Yes. Thank you. Anybody else? Sometimes this brings up like a negative connotation. When I was a kid, your age, people were burning this flag because there was a war going on that so many people didn't agree with, right? And you have something?
Was it World War II?
Actually, it was the Vietnam War. And I wasn't a kid in World War II. I wasn't born yet. I'm old, but I'm not quite that old. But so some things have been done in our world, in our lives, under the name of this flag that have not always been justice and love and equity and inclusion, right? Some things that have been done with this flag waving have been terrible, actually. And even now, there are people in our world that use this flag, but they're not looking for justice. They're not looking for inclusion. They're not looking with love at the world, right? But we can look at the world this way, and we can. All right, so are there any symbols in this room that you see? What symbol's that? The flag? Anything else? Oh, Jackson?
The Unitarian Universalist chalice.
Yes, the chalice. And you know what I love about this is that it kind of looks like a needle to me at the top. And this is what I think about our church and our religion and our movement, is that we can mend some of the wrongs that we have done in the name of this flag, and we can claim this flag for ourselves under the name of patriotism. We love liberty, right? We love freedom. We love fairness. And we can make this flag mean that.
I see the pride flags up there.
I know, yeah, they are there. So, what can we do to mend our relationship with this flag? What can we do to mend our country so that this flag means something all around the world?
I actually saw another symbol that nobody noticed.
What was it? Oh, that's a chalice too. That's great. What can you do? Yes.
I also found another one. The exit sign.
Oh, okay. What can you do? Anybody? What can we do? Julie.
own our values as a country and put our hand out with love.
I love that. What can you do? What's one thing? Everybody, vote! I know you guys will get to vote. Believe me, you will. So think about that. Think about what you can do, how you can do what Julie said. Live into our values, extend our hand out with love. How can you do that in your community, in your life? And with that in your mind, you may go back to your seats. So thanks, guys.
What if we die before we're able to vote?
That would be sad, because I know you would help us out with your vote.
Now is the time that we make financial gifts to benefit and sustain the ongoing ministry of this church. And the ministry of this church not only consists of what we do in these walls, both real and virtual, but what we do that extends beyond the walls as well. One way that we do that is through our generosity. Each month we will share 50% of the money collected as the offering that is not designated as a pledge payment. It is hoped that this will lead to greater connections and a wider impact. The organization we are giving to this month is the Elizabeth River Project. I should. I don't. The Elizabeth River Project's been around for quite a while, and the Elizabeth River, come give us a 30-second rendition of the Elizabeth River Project.
Hey guys, Trisha. I'm an educator with ERP. So the Elizabeth River Project has been around since 1993, working with groups, both industrial and communities throughout the Elizabeth River watershed, which is Norfolk, Portsmouth, Chesapeake, and Virginia Beach. And they have made great strides in helping to clean up the river so that we can enjoy it for all of its good purposes, food, play, other activities as well. And they just got a new grant to finish the Money Point cleanup, which is not too far from here, so.
Another little act of redemption here. Thank you. We do not want our river to catch on fire. Giving our time, talent, and treasure to organizations that matter to us and those that improve our lives and the lives of others is a spiritual practice for those who call themselves Unitarian Universalist. And it is one that we should not shy away from. More importantly, it is necessary to our survival. So, if you'd like to donate by cash or check, you may deposit your gift in the basket as it comes around. If you would like to give electronically, the screen behind me provides a variety of ways to do that. And as you set your intention for giving, we will listen to another musical selection. We thank you for your generosity in both treasure and talent.
Good morning. I am Martha Shore. Gosh, I thought I got by without her.
She told me I couldn't do this, so. Martha Shore is a retired human resource manager, and she grew up in the Methodist Church in Memphis, Tennessee, discovering the UU Church in Jacksonville, Florida. She has joined UU churches in Gainesville, Baton Rouge, Raleigh, Fayetteville, and Richmond. You didn't get kicked out, right? All of them. Before coming to the Unitarian Church of Norfolk. She has since served on the UCN Board, and as president, she's been a teen advisor and a middle school teacher. She has volunteered working as the Healthy Congregations representative for the UUTJ district and for the UUA as a compensation consultant. Recently, she has served on the CVUU Board and the Ministerial Selection Committee, the Finance Committee, and the Worship Services Committee. So there.
Like most baby boomers, I was raised to be a proud American. My maternal grandparents had 9 children, 4 girls, 5 boys. All of the sons and 1 daughter served in the military. Frank Jr. was grievously injured in World War II, the Battle of the Bulge. 6 weeks after he had been inducted into the Army, and not a year past his graduation. My mom was a Navy nurse, and she served at Bethesda, and her partner was an Army nurse who received her promotion to colonel in northern Italy at a field hospital not far from the front. Like many boomers, I know little of my family's war stories. What I do know is that patriotism, being proud of being an American, is a quietly and deeply held core value for that generation. My cousins in Ohio and my cousins in New Mexico and my classmates in Memphis, Tennessee, every school morning sang "My Country, Tis of Thee," and we all said the Pledge of Allegiance with our hand over our hearts. We celebrated our great country with programs where we sang patriotic songs and celebrated Americans' beautiful heritage with Thanksgiving programs where we got to portray generous little Indians giving the pilgrims corn and pumpkins and that sort of thing. Even at my Methodist church, there was an American flag that proudly stood on the right-hand side of the choir loft. And for special occasions, the Boy Scouts marched up the aisle with the flag. I was proud to be an American, and I love the flag for all that it symbolized. The population of Memphis, where I was growing up, was about 40% black. Yet I seldom interacted with a person of color. Astoria, a kind and gentle woman who took care of me for several years while I was, before I went to kindergarten. Jim was a black man that Francis, who was the most vocally racist person in our family, always found a job for him when he came around to help his family out. Otherwise, I only saw POCs when I rode the bus to go to the dreaded dentist downtown, or when we went shopping at Lowenstein's or Goldsmith's, and then ate at Britling's cafeteria, where the servers and cooks were all black. I had a vague sense of unrest from snippets of the news that I didn't really watch, but it was there. But that seemed not to have much to do with the people that I knew. When I went to college, it all changed. I was immediately swept into the civil rights movement. My Wesley Foundation was a hotbed of activism. We gathered a group to go to the March on Washington, only to be waylaid by a broken car at Lake Junaluska. Even from afar, we were inspired by Martin Luther King and Joan Baez. In November that year, Kennedy was assassinated. We were in shock and grieved with the nation. After that year, later in that year, we went to an ecumenical conference for civil rights conference at Ohio State University. We were inspired because we sang, "We Shall Overcome." All throughout the auditorium, people had their arms crossed and were singing. And then we listened to representatives from SNCC and CORE about the power of the movement, and we felt inspired, and we knew that we were going to change the world. The more I learned about racism, the more I learned about racism, the more I knew that America needed to be fixed. After my return from the conference, I was sure that my generation could make it happen. I participated in a sit-in in Jackson, Tennessee, at a little place called the Coffee Cup. The black kids were arrested. They were from Lane College, and they were jailed. The white kids were mostly from Lambeth or from UT Martin, and they were pushed back to campus and told that the dean was watching. The dean of students would be watching us. I was scared and ashamed to be scared, but I did invite a new black friend who was a student but lived off campus to the dorm and to the town Methodist church. The church did not let us in. They sent us packing back to the Wesley Foundation. The dean was watching, who knew he was a Methodist, and he told me to stay away from the church and not to bring outsiders to the dorm or else. I was not really afraid of him, but I was pretty scared of my mom. My social activism was more subdued after that. Later, Bob Shore and I married in August after King had been assassinated in my town. And he departed to join the Sea Wolves in Vietnam in December. I went back to UTM to finish my BS. Martin was a conservative town, and the anti-war protesters were not happening at UTM. They certainly raged on nightly news as I watched for information about what the Sea Wolves were engaged in the Delta. My Sea Wolf wrote daily, sometimes in despair, about the people of the Delta, farmers like him, who were apolitical and just wanted to be left alone to raise their race. He also wrote of the horror of being afraid of children because they carried bombs, or they had been, some of them had. A few people on campus on the other side of the world were talking about how wrong the war was. One of the sea wolves was killed. It was clear to me that my pilot, was there mostly to protect other sea wolves, the brown water navy, and the SEALs, more than to save the government of South Vietnam. As proud as I was of my pilot, I was having doubts about my country's involvement in the war. Fast forward. As history continued to unfold, my focus was mostly on family life. I found the UU Church and a community to support my social activism. As I learned a different history than what I was taught at my school, especially the generational family impact of racism, the individual stories of Japanese people who were interred during World War II, the treatment of Native Americans, their families, and especially the children, and the structural racism that I never knew about, like redlining and the fact that World War II veterans who happened to be people of color did not get the GI Bill, like my mom and Frances did, to buy the house I lived in. As I grew more cynical about the flag, it lost its luster. A new low point for me was in Charlottesville, with the Proud Boys dashing the flag about as they violently attacked peaceful protesters, especially because only the day before I had decided not to take my grandson to that protest that I knew some of our ministers were going to. Then, fast forward into January 6th. I was in total despair of the flag in that protest. I started jokingly, darkly, talking about immigrating. As the election season this recently has brought the felons candidacy into the limelight, I've been in disbelief, continued despair, and some fear. Happily, some recent vignettes in my life have changed that a bit. I went to a naturalization ceremony in downtown Norfolk. What an amazing event to witness. What an array of people who had come here to make real their dreams and live the American dream, live our American values instead of what they had been doing in their home countries, perhaps. I know, two remarkable women who had been in the U.S. with green cards doing just nicely, thank you very much, one for 40 years. But when the 45th presidency came into being, they started to the process of obtaining their citizenship. Let me tell you, these two women were from countries that I had fantasized about immigrating to. They had decided that civic engagement was very important to them, and they wanted to vote, especially locally and nationally. If these two were willing to tough it out during these times of uncertainty and darkness, who was I to try to avoid the hard work of living into our values and making change? How could I allow the Proud Boys to besmirch our flag? A different type of mind-changing event also had impact on me wanting to reclaim my flag. It was the experience of the natural beauty of this country, kayaking with my grandson at the Silver River in Florida and hiking in the Garden of the Gods in Colorado and Pikes Peak. How indeed could I let the Proud Boys take our flag away from the beauty, the natural beauty in this country that we share and own together? How do we take the flag back? I don't want to use their violent tactics. I want to use UU values and nature as my guide. I want to look, as Mr. Rogers says, to the helpers, like the heroes of like the firemen and the average people during 9/11. And recently during the pandemic, again, the medical folks and the ordinary citizens who kept our stores open, the heroes of the pandemic. I want to make real change, not just the president. I don't believe that democracy comes from the top down. I want the right president in, for sure, but I do believe that democracy, we live into it from the ground up. Like fractals. Do you know fractals from math or from nature or from art? Fractals become power as the design builds from tiny, tiny, tiny to bigger, 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 bigger. Like a butterfly scale. A tiny little butterfly scale is a fractal. And as more and more of them are on the wing of a butterfly, they build a beautiful design, and they build a wing that is powerful enough to fly for 10,000 miles. I believe democracy is like that, like the small scale of the butterfly multiplied. Our individual actions in little d democracy. Little d democracy to me is about listening to one another, understanding what our needs are, and finding the middle path that works in a family, in an organization, in a community, in a church, in a state, as the fractal of democracy gets larger and more powerful. Building healthy congregations builds healthy families and communities, which supports cities and then supports the state and then the region and then, by golly, the nation. To strengthen our church and our community, we need wild imagination combined with attention to what is going on around us. We need people like the sea wolf, Ken Balcom, who went back from Vietnam to Seattle and noticed that the whales, the killer whales, needed to be documented, and that perhaps they were suffering from sonar from the Navy ships. He did that work for 46 years and built a record of tracking whales that is not matched anywhere else in the world. Brian Stevenson, he had a wild imagination that he could help people on the death row. Dorothy Day, she had a wild imagination. She noticed that It shouldn't be a crime to be poor or mentally ill. Daryl Davis, bet you don't know him, some of you, maybe you're blues fans, you do know Daryl Davis. He's a black musician, a blues man. He had a conversation with the Grand Dragon of the KKK. That man hung up his white garbs and introduced Daryl to other KKK members to help them disengage from the Ku Klux Klan. Talk about wild imagination combined with a lot of courage. That's what little democracy, how it gets built. When we reach across interests, find the shared ones, and find ways around the ones that are hateful. Valerie Cower, she created an organization that supports radical love. She was the one who, right after her beloved uncle was the first person of the first Sikh man who was assassinated after 9/11. But she was able to imagine that maybe these dark times were not the darkness of the tomb, but the darkness of the womb. What if this is our greatest time of emerging and transformation? And then there are other people who are kind of local. What about David Olton? You don't remember him, some of you, but he was on the board when this church, UCN, decided that it was just a shame to have people out in the streets when it was cold, and thus Nest was eventually born. What about Fern Stanley, who said, let's just try some ideas. How about if we make sandwiches for the Catholic worker? That was over 30 years ago. What about Doug Throp, who just keeps on keeping our church going? What about Bruce, who's a brand new member, who stepped into leadership on the tech deck? What about Steve, who's a great ex-president? What about Ellie and David, who's serving as president, and Jiffy, who imagined that it would be fun to have an auction, and maybe we could make some money on it too. Wild ideas, some courage, and a great result. What if we had wild ideas? Oh, another one, Julie. She was the one when we moved here. We need to feed people. We'll feed anybody who comes if they're hungry on Wednesdays. There are lots more of you, like Kat brought us the flags for our kids. We have to have imagination that we can do something about reparations. We can do something about misogyny. We can do something about the big problems that have big impact with little actions reaching across one and another to share our power and the things that we see and our imagination about what we can do about them. We, my friends, can live into the values of our forefathers and reclaim our flag. Thank you.
I keep having to get up here after, good stuff, so I don't know what that means. But if you would now stand as you were able and sing with me, "This land is your land." Some of us knew that song by heart. Oliver, would you like to come up and extinguish our flame? And you'll be very careful. Oh. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are. Okay. Thank you for joining us today. If there are some brief announcements. Oh, we have this. We have this. Never mind.
Thank you, Liz and Cullen. Before I wrote the sermon, I asked, so. Because if you fall flat on your face, if you have good music, everything's going to be fine.
Again, I will thank you for coming. I particularly thank those people who helped us dance this out. And if you have any short announcements, please come up and share.
Can you hear me? Wait, there. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. Short and sweet. My name is Wendy, and I am facilitating the Buddhist Affinity Group, and we are doing a monthly group meditation the second Monday of every month. And so the group meditation for this month is tomorrow, and it starts at 6:30 and goes until 8:30, so all are welcome. Thank you. And next one is August 12th.
Do we have coffee hour? Yes? Join us for our coffee hour in the social hall where you'll get to chat with some incredible people. Thank you for coming.
you.